Okay. So, hi everyone. This is Lisa, I'm Rebecca, and today we would like to talk a bit about Rails Girls Summer of Code, how we are involved and how you as designers and developers can get involved. But first of all, what is Rails Girls Summer of Code? What is Rails Girls, in case you don't know? Exactly, that is not correct. Not quite. Actually, Rails Girls is a non-profit organization that offers free workshops for women to get into programming and focusing on Ruby on Rails. And it was first founded in Finland and would then spread the world like a cool virus, and now is happening in many cities, and especially in Berlin the community is very active and stable. And out of this movement, the idea was born that it would actually be pretty cool to have like a summer of code, to go a step further than just a workshop, and to give the students the opportunity to work for 3 whole months full-time and paid on an open source project, which is pretty cool, but in order to turn this into reality, you have to get a team together. Because there needs to be a website, who's doing the design, who is implementing it, where does the money come from to pay the students, who's organizing everything, and so many more questions. So it was actually pretty cool to see that within a very short time frame, people with, as you can see, very different professions would team up to make this summer project come true. And in the end, 33 women had the chance to indeed work 3 months full-time and paid on their projects. And of course, nothing like this works without sponsors, so here are some of our main ones. And also pretty cool is that conferences would sponsor tickets for the students so they could attend and speak on them. And me and Lisa also got like 2 tickets for the CSS conference in Berlin. Maybe all of you or some have been there. It was a great experience. And thanks CSS conference again. And my personal involvement, originally I was going to apply myself, but I had a full-time job, too bad. And instead I would do drawings and illustrations for the Summer of Code website like this, and for the newsletter and such. So this turned out to be quite interesting as well. And yeah, at this point, after maybe 3 minutes, you might think, what the hell do I have to do with this? Why should I care? And this is the point where I will hand over the talk to Lisa.
Thank you. Okay, this is good. So you might be wondering, what do I have to do with it? Because after all, this is more or less JS land and not Ruby land. But maybe you get a better idea of how you can get involved if I tell you what my story was, because I'm basically calling myself a front-end developer. I spent my days coding HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But one day I decided to dig a little deeper into another language, like some object-oriented server-side thing, and I decided to do it in Ruby because the community seemed very enthusiastic and very motivated. And I attended a few Rails Girls workshop in that course, and that was around the time when the idea of the Summer of Code first started to take shape, and I really found this really nice idea, and I wanted to help those people make it come true. So I decided to help them, and everybody did what they were best in, and I was best at front end. So I kind of took the leading role in the website team, getting that all set up and spreading the word and making the best possible website we could ever do to promote the idea and to make it happen. And right now I like to explain to you a little bit more about what I took out of that, because I didn't participate as a student in Summer of Code, but rather engage myself as a front-end developer, and maybe you can get some ideas of how you can get involved and what is maybe advantages for you in the process. You might know this if you work with Git as a versioning system, because Git and GitHub especially played a huge role in the overall communication. We had the whole process, the discussions, the decisions were all made on GitHub. We had a public repository where people could look into what we're actually planning, what we're up to, and see just the current status. And I don't know how you currently work, but before Summer of Code, I knew like, yeah, GitHub, that's where my open source projects live. And I knew some basic like push, pull, commit, and that stuff. But in the course, I had to manage the issues, like assign tasks to people, and really get like really the whole workflow of how open source works and how you can get involved with it was much more clear with me. And now it's like a workflow which is natural as, I don't know, running a grunt task or something. Which brings me to the next point, because it's not just like Git and communication that became like natural to me, but also overcoming hurdles of other technical hurdles. For example, the Rails Sum of Code website itself is hosted on GitHub Pages, and I didn't know it before, but GitHub Pages runs on Jekyll, and Jekyll is a static site generator which is written in Ruby. I had never heard about it before, but I had to deal with it, and I had to read the documentation, found out that it was quite cool. Not as cool as maybe some other site generators, but still very useful. So I had to dig into that, learned a lot of it. Also, some advantages of it, some things that were not so good. We'll later hear what is not so good about it. But still, it's like I learned a lot about templating and looking a little bit further into technical possibilities. And also, this was kind of like one of the Git commands that I feared, because like it was a fear of using it, and I was like, if you completely fuck up, you can still like do a Git reset. But now I'm much more comfortable with it, or I'm hardly using it because I know better what I'm about to do. But the most experience I got from the Summer of Code and organizing it and working on the project was responsibility, because I was kind of more or less in charge of the website. I had to take responsibility and make decisions, and that was for me kind of like the good, the bad, and the ugly. I started with the bad. Some of the decisions I had to take were involving around technical stuff. For example, Jekyll, the site generator. It's pretty cool, but it does not have, for example, a built-in SAS compiler, which is not like, you all know SAS, I guess, and you love it because it's so awesome. And it wouldn't have been such a big problem to like compile CSS externally and then push the compiled CSS file to Git. But then I thought we had so many like beginners in coding, and especially people who are not really into front end, and I thought that might be overwhelming for them to like then learn what is SAS, compile that stuff, and then like getting to know a whole new workflow. So I decided that we stick to CSS, and which directly led to the ugly, because I don't know if you still remember how it was to write a whole project in pure CSS, and we had like an enormous file with ugly CSS, because everyone was just like writing their styles, overriding other classes, and I spent a few nights cleaning up the code, refactoring. It was like not the most pleasant work I ever did, and next time I will definitely like push the students into the Cold War and make them work with SAS or some other pre-compiler, because it's much better. Aside from the bad and the ugly, there was also the good, which was like even better and brighter, and makes everything much better. Which is taking responsibility in the first place and getting to make decisions. In my everyday job, I don't have much responsibility, and here I had to cope with it. I had to make the decisions. I had to think about a lot of stuff that I don't usually have to think about. But it was cool because I could like throw in some ideas, and I had the opportunity to give other people feedback, and also to get feedback from other people, which weren't like your everyday client work feedback, but like honest feedback. which was cool and which was very encouraging and motivating for me as well. And yeah, it was like more or less what I learned from it, and that leads me to why we need you. We want you because, as you might have guessed, Railscale Summer of Code, coming from a more Ruby background, lacks some front-end people and designers, which is a shame because it's an awesome project and everybody can get involved. Like the whole community is invited to. There's even like one team was working on Impress.js as their Summer of Code project, so this is still free. This is not like just for Ruby projects. Like everybody can get involved in the Summer of Code as well as in organizing it. And if you have some ideas on how you can like make things better or just help people out, there's so much to do. I show you a quick example. This is online right now. This is called our Teams app. This is where the participating teams could like communicate with coaches and other teams or apply for conference tickets and stuff like that. And as you can see, it's more or less a table. Yeah, it's a table. That's all I wanted to stress right now. As an example of that, there's much work to do. And if you have an idea and you don't really like know what you, or you don't have a project where you can put your ideas into action, this is somewhere where you can have every freedom you want to, and where you really like can get involved and make something cool happen. So I repeat, we want you. And yeah, if you find this really, if you find something that is like, yeah, I could do that, or I could do this better, or anything like that, don't hesitate to contact us. There is railscalesummerofcode.org, our website, and you could tweet at Railscales SoC, which stands for Summer of Code, and you can ask questions now or later. We're here to answer it. And thank you for your attention. And this was it. Do you have questions right now?
How many projects?
Like we had 33 people, women participating, and I think it's like 15 projects, which were like kind of high-profile projects, like if you know the Sinatra framework, for example, and yeah, of like Choose RB, and we had Impress.js as a JavaScript project. Unfortunately, the only one as far as I know. But still, there was the students who applied for the Summer of Code had the opportunity to even say on what projects they like to work themselves. So it wasn't like we just had some examples for them to pick. Yeah. Yeah.
How did you guys get into it in the first place?
I started to learn Ruby in some of the Railscales Berlin workshops, because they organize workshops for absolute beginners every once in a while. And yeah, there was around, and it was like, yeah, kind of coincidence for me at least, because one of the workshops was kind of the starting for, yeah, the organizing of Summer of Code, and yeah, so I slid into it.
Yeah, same here. I also attended some workshops and then got interested to continue learning, and so I stick to it. And it's because the community is so welcoming and fun. It's just to hang out there, not do anything, is easy enough. So, yeah.
Okay. I don't see any more questions. So thank you again, and.